know direction. Ride on, Kola Shade Milo. Before that.
How does a man go from posting luxury cars and designer clothes online to becoming one of the most infamous fraudsters in the world? This is a story of Hushpuppi. What if I told you one of the biggest flexes on the internet wasn't famous for music, sports, or business? He was famous for showing off a lifestyle most people could only dream about: luxury cars, private jets, designer clothes, millions of followers. But behind all the Instagram posts was a story that would eventually end with an FBI investigation and a prison sentence. This is the story of Hushpuppi, one of the internet's most famous scammers, and how a life built on luxury eventually came crashing down. Now, before the FBI ever kicked in any doors, Hushpuppi was already becoming a superstar online. His real name was Rahman Abbas, but most people knew him as Hushpuppi. And if you was on the gram around that time, there was no way you missed him. I'm talking about every post was a flex. Designer clothes worth thousands of dollars. Luxury shopping sprees. Private jets. Rolls Royces. And Lamborghinis. The man made it look like money wasn't even real. And the crazy thing is, people loved it. His following kept growing. Millions of people were watching this dude live a lifestyle that most people could only dream about. To some people, Hushpuppi was motivation, proof that you could come from nothing and make it big. But to other people, something felt off. What exactly does this man do for a living? Because nobody could really explain where all this money was coming from. And while social media was busy arguing about it in the comments, investigators were starting to pay attention too. What nobody knew at the same time was that Hushpuppi's biggest problem wasn't the people online asking questions. It was the people quietly building the case behind the scenes. By this point, Hushpuppi had become one of the most recognizable luxury influencers on Instagram. He claimed his wealth came from real estate investments and business ventures, but not everyone believed his story. According to the reports, investigators alleged that behind the glamorous lifestyle was a massive international fraud operation. Authorities claim members of the group targeted businesses around the world. Victims were allegedly tricked into sending large wire transfers into accounts controlled by criminals. As the investigation expanded, authorities began looking deeper into Hushpuppi's activities and his network of associates. Ironically, the same social media presence that made him famous may have helped investigators track him. Reports state that the investigators examined his online posts, his luxury purchases, travel history, and public appearances. One report even claimed that a birthday post helped authorities verify information connected to his identity. While millions of followers saw success, investigators allegedly saw evidence, and they weren't working alone. According to reports, agencies including the FBI, the Interpol, and authorities in multiple countries were all involved in tracking the operation. Now, while Hushpuppi was busy posting luxury cars and designer outfits, something else was happening behind the scenes. Federal investigators believed that a massive fraud network was operating across multiple countries. According to court documents, the scam weren't small time either. We're talking about millions of dollars, the type of money that gets people attention real fast. One of the biggest schemes involved something called business email compromise. Now that might sound complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. Imagine getting an email from your boss telling you to wire money to a certain account. Everything looks normal. The email address looks real, the message sounds real, but the whole thing is fake. And by the time the victim realizes what happened, the money is already gone. Authorities say scams like these were generating huge amounts of money. Piece by piece, they were building a picture of what they believed was really going on. The crazy part? While all of this was happening, Hushpuppi kept posting on Instagram like nothing was wrong. The luxury lifestyle kept going. The designer shopping kept going. The vacations kept going. Meanwhile, investigators were getting closer and closer, and eventually that lifestyle would catch up to him. And as investigators dug deep, they started connecting names, accounts, transactions, and communications. Then in June of 2020, everything changed. For years, people online had been wondering where Hushpuppi's money came from. Now they were about to get an answer. Authorities in Dubai launched a major operation that would eventually lead to Hushpuppi's arrest. According to reports, investigators raided locations connected to him and seized phones, computers, and other evidence. And just like that, the man who spent years showing off a life of luxury was sitting in handcuffs. News spread across social media almost instantly. People couldn't believe it. Some thought it was fake. Others thought he'd beat the charges and be back online in a few weeks. But that never happened, because once investigators started revealing what they believe had been going on behind the scenes, the story got even crazier. The same lifestyle that helped make Hushpuppies famous was now being used as evidence against him. The private jets, the luxury cars, the designer shopping sprees, everything people once admired was suddenly being looked at very differently. And for the first time, the image Hushpuppi had spent years building was starting to fall apart. Eventually, Hushpuppi would plead guilty to conspiracy charges related to money laundering. The man who once looked untouchable was now facing the consequences of the decisions that had been building for years. And honestly, that's what makes this story so crazy. Because for a long time, it looked like he had figured out the cheat code to life: millions of followers, unlimited money, luxury cars, private jets, the kind of lifestyle people spend their entire lives chasing. But behind the Instagram posts and the designer clothes was a completely different reality, a reality that most of his followers never saw. And that's probably the biggest lesson from this whole story. Social media only shows you what people want you to see: the highlight reel, the victories, the expensive purchases. What was happening behind the scenes would eventually bring everything crashing down. One day he was one of the biggest flexes on the internet. The next day he became one of the internet's biggest cautionary tales. And that's the story of Hushpuppi. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, subscribe, and let me know who I should cover next. This has been Gunatello TV, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.